The Galactic Consortium, a sprawling collection of civilizations from across the stars, prided itself on its shared knowledge and universal education system. And yet, despite the millennia of collected wisdom and countless worlds contributing to the consortium's libraries, there were always curiosities when it came to the newer members, especially one particular species from a small blue planet, humans. The consortium had only recently allowed humans to join its ranks, partly due to their violent history and reputation as Deathworlders, inhabitants of a planet where life was considered particularly brutal and unforgiving. But now, several years after their acceptance, humans were beginning to make their mark, especially in the educational sector. At the front of the class stood Lieutenant Emma Hayes, a former soldier and now one of the few human instructors in the Galactic Education Corps. Her assignment: to teach young aliens about Earth's ecosystems and, more curiously, its domesticated animals, particularly the concept of pets. Today, she was introducing her students to a creature that had fascinated the galaxy since first contact: the dog. Her students, an eclectic mix of alien youths, shifted in their seats. There was Kyrax, a cephalorian with translucent skin and shimmering eyes; Mara, a Phlegorian whose exoskeleton clinked lightly as she moved; and Glax, a towering, scaled Denisian who was particularly skeptical of humans' affinity for small, useless creatures. What purpose do these animals serve? Glax's voice rumbled, his wide-set eyes fixed on a holographic image of a golden retriever projected above the podium. Emma smiled, expecting the question. She flicked her wrist, and the hologram shifted to show a human child playing fetch with the dog. The class watched with a mix of curiosity and confusion. On Earth, Emma began, dogs serve many roles. They help with hunting, provide protection, offer companionship, and in some cases are trained to assist humans with disabilities. But more than that, they become part of the family. Their loyalty and emotional intelligence are unparalleled. Kyrax blinked, his eye stalk swaying. Family? You mean they share genetic lineage with you? No, Emma replied, shaking her head. Not in the way you might think. They aren't related to us by blood, but they bond with us, live in our homes, and we care for them as we would any family member. A quiet murmur rippled through the class. The idea of a non-sentient creature being treated like a family member was alien to them, literally. On many consortium worlds, animals were either tools or threats. The concept of domestication, particularly for emotional support, was as foreign as Earth itself. Mira's mandibles clicked in what Emma had learned was a Phlegorian equivalent of confusion. But why would a species from a death world, known for its survival instinct, waste resources on beings that do not contribute to survival? Emma gestured again, and the hologram shifted to a scene of a military working dog leading soldiers through a war zone. Dogs have helped humans survive for thousands of years. In war, they've saved countless lives by detecting explosives or enemies. In times of peace, they help us cope with stress, trauma, and isolation. The room fell silent as the students processed the new information. Glax's deep-set eyes narrowed slightly. So, they are more than companions. They serve your species in battle as well. Emma nodded. They do, but their value goes beyond what they can do. It's about what they mean to us. The students were quiet for a moment, each grappling with the idea in their own way. For many species within the consortium, emotional bonds were a luxury, especially with creatures considered to be lower on the evolutionary scale. Finally, Kyrax raised one of his tentacles. Do you have one of these pets? Emma's smile softened. I did. His name was Jack, a German shepherd. He was with me through some of the toughest times in my life, during my service in the Terran Armed Forces. He was more than just a dog. He was a friend, a protector, and a constant source of comfort. Her voice caught slightly, but she composed herself quickly. When I lost him, it felt like losing a part of myself. The class shifted uncomfortably. Loss was a concept they understood all too well. But the idea of feeling such deep sorrow for an animal was a difficult one for them to grasp. Still, they were starting to understand that humanity's connection to their pets went far beyond mere survival. Mara tilted her head, a curious light in her compound eyes. "You grieve for them, as if they were one of your own." "Yes," Emma said simply, "because they are." There was a moment of contemplative silence before Glax. The most skeptical of the group rumbled. "Perhaps there is something to be learned from these creatures after all. Loyalty, companionship. It is a bond we do not experience on Denaxia. We rely on strength and power, but perhaps there is strength in these bonds too." Emma's heart lifted slightly. It wasn't easy teaching alien species about something so inherently human, but moments like this made it worthwhile. "That's exactly right," she said. "In many ways, our pets teach us as much as we teach them. They remind us of the importance of empathy, loyalty, and unconditional love." As the class ended, Emma watched her students file out, their minds still working through the lessons of the day. She knew that in a galaxy filled with advanced technology, powerful species, and dangerous worlds, the simple act of loving and caring for a pet was something that made humans unique. And maybe, just maybe, it was something the rest of the galaxy could learn from too. As the classroom doors closed behind the last of her students, Lieutenant Emma Hayes leaned against the lectern, exhaling deeply. She stared at the now-dark hologram projector, lost in thought. Today had gone, well, better than she had expected. Teaching alien youths about human culture, especially something as nuanced as the bond between humans and their pets, was never straightforward. The consortium's educational curriculum was mostly technical. Physics, biology, intergalactic law. But this was something different, something intangible. She had just given them a glimpse into the human soul. The door hissed open again, breaking her reverie. Kyrax hovered in the doorway, his glowing eyes blinking in their rhythmic, slow way. He approached silently, his gelatinous form rippling slightly as he moved. "Lieutenant Hayes," he began, his voice soft yet resonant in the quiet room. "I apologize for my lingering curiosity, but may I ask you a personal question?" Emma smiled, already sensing the tone of this conversation. "Of course, Kyrax. What's on your mind?" Kyrax's eye stalks twisted slightly, an expression she had come to associate with thoughtfulness. "Your species forms these deep, emotional bonds with animals that are, by our standards, less sentient. Yet, you also possess a fearsome reputation across the consortium as Deathworlders, survivors in environments where life is harsh. How do you reconcile such ferocity with this tenderness?" Emma folded her arms, pondering how best to explain what was to her an intrinsic part of human nature. Guess they finally realized there's more to war than shiny gadgets. As Avery left, Hayes turned back to the rifle on the wall. The Coalition had been shocked, but to him, it was a reminder of something Earth had always understood: the importance of simplicity and effectiveness. It wasn't about who had the most advanced weapons or the most intricate technology. Sometimes, victory came from understanding the strengths of what you had and knowing how to use it. But things weren't all rosy on the interstellar front. The Zorthak, humiliated and furious over the death of their warrior, were not content to let the matter rest. Rumors had begun circulating that Commander Vrathok was preparing for retaliation. The Zorthak Empire was a proud race, and their warrior culture demanded retribution for any slight, especially one that had tarnished their reputation across the galaxy. It wasn't long before those rumors became reality. 3 weeks after the incident, Earth's outer colonies began receiving strange transmissions, distorted messages warning of incoming Zorthak fleets. Tensions rose as military outposts scrambled to prepare for what could only be described as an impending assault. Back aboard the Atlas, Captain Hayes was called into an emergency briefing. The United Earth Defense Fleet had intercepted communications confirming that the Zorthak were planning a large-scale attack on Earth's strategic positions in the Outer Rim. It was clear that Vrathok wanted revenge, and this time, it wouldn't be a mere negotiation. The situation was dire. The Atlas, though formidable by Earth standards, was still outgunned by the Zorthak warships, which boasted advanced plasma cannons and energy shields. Humanity's reliance on kinetic weaponry, while effective in isolated incidents, would be put to the ultimate test in an all-out war. As the Atlas and its fleet prepared to jump to the defense of the outer colonies, Hayes knew that this fight would define humanity's future. This wasn't just about Earth's survival. It was about proving to the galaxy, once and for all, that humans belonged in the stars. The battle, when it came, was nothing short of chaotic. Zorthak ships descended upon the colonies with brutal efficiency, their glowing energy weapons slicing through space with terrifying precision. Earth's defense fleet, led by the Atlas, retaliated with everything they had. Railguns, missile batteries, and kinetic artillery unleashed a storm of firepower, but the Zorthak armor was tough, and their shields almost impenetrable. Almost. As the battle raged on, Hayes realized that their standard tactics wouldn't be enough. The Zorthak had learned from their previous encounter. They weren't going to let human ingenuity surprise them again. But Hayes had one last trick up his sleeve. In the deepest parts of the Atlas's armory lay a secret weapon, something long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy: nuclear warheads. While energy weapons had become the standard in modern warfare, Earth's nuclear arsenal had remained untouched, considered too dangerous and unpredictable to use in the delicate politics of intergalactic combat. But desperate times called for desperate measures. With the Zorthak fleet closing in, Hayes made the call. "Prep the nukes," he ordered, his voice calm but resolute. The Atlas launched the warheads in a carefully calculated trajectory. As they hurtled through space, the Zorthak ships detected the incoming threat, but they didn't know how to respond. Their shields, designed to deflect energy-based attacks, were useless against the sheer destructive force of nuclear fission. When the warheads detonated, the resulting explosion lit up the dark expanse of space like a new sun. The shockwave tore through the Zorthak fleet, disabling their ships and obliterating their defenses. The once invincible warriors were left scrambling, their arrogance shattered along with their ships. In the aftermath, the Galactic Coalition could no longer deny humanity's place among the stars. Earth, a seemingly primitive planet with its outdated technology, had just delivered one of the most decisive victories in galactic history. As the Atlas returned home, battered but victorious, Captain Hayes looked out at the stars. He knew this wouldn't be the last time Earth faced such a threat. But now, the galaxy knew better than to underestimate humanity. After all, if there's one thing humans were good at, it was making the impossible possible, even with ancient tools at their disposal.